All right, hello everyone. Just give me a minute to set everything up over here. Right, so hello once again. My name is Anton Ignatev, and I am a senior backend developer at DeFi Tuna. This is actually my first time here at Crossroads, but I am very excited to talk to you today about yield farming. But first, I have a question to the audience. So how many of you are yield farming in any way? Let's say staking, lending, or liquidity farming? Yeah, can you please raise your hand? All right, a lot of you here. So that's really awesome, because today we are going to discuss different options for yield farming on Solana, explore where does the API actually come from, and see which option works the best for you. So let's start with staking. Staking is probably the easiest way to start yield farming on Solana. But let's quickly recap of what staking actually is. So staking is the core of the Solana network, as it incentivizes validators to secure the network and process transactions. And staking consists basically of transaction fees and inflation. There are two types of staking. We have native staking and liquid staking. Both of those types earn the rewards from the validators, but liquid staking provides you with option of delegating your tokens to a protocol like, for example, Marinate or Jito, which use their own strategies under the hood to maximize the yield and give you a slightly better APY than native staking. So basically, like everything else in our world, staking is not perfect. So let's see what are the good and bad side of staking. So staking is very easy to start. If you're a beginner, all you need is a wallet, some SOL, and a protocol that you will stake with. Then staking provides you with a very stable APY, which is about 80% at the moment, which is actually quite cool. And when staking, you are still maintaining exposure to Solana. So if you are like me and you expect the Solana to boom, staking is a great option to still maintain that exposure. But what are the bad sides of staking? So the first bad side is inflation. So as like almost 90% of the validators' rewards consist of newly minted SOL, that SOL is slowly diluting the total supply, which leads to inflation. But the bigger problem is that Solana's inflation rate is not fixed. And in fact, it's set to decrease by 15% each year, which means that the staking APY is constantly decreasing. So the longer you will be staking your tokens, the less APY there will be. So the second problem is Solana's volatility, because as we've seen this year, it's near impossible to predict the price of Solana. So if you decide to start staking and you get unlucky with your entry price, you would have to spend a lot of time to cover your possible losses to just stake with. And the third problem might not be so relevant at the moment, because at current state of Solana, slashing is possibly non-existent, but this is subject to change in the future. And if you're not careful enough with the protocol or a validator that you are staking with, you have a risk of slashing, so you might actually experience some losses even when you are just staking. So staking is not 100% safe. The second option for yield farming is lending. So lending allows traders to create long or short positions and make profit from market price movements, while at the same time, users providing liquidity to the lending protocols earn on the borrowing interest that traders are essentially providing.
Yes.
So lending protocols depend highly on utilization. So let's say if you see a high APY or APR, that means that there is a high utilization on the pool. So high utilization means high APY, which means that it's very profitable to provide this exact pool with your tokens, which incentives more supply. And at the same time, if you have a low utilization, that means a lower borrowing APR, which means that it's very, very cheap to borrow those tokens from this pool, which incentives more borrowing. And so this is essentially a mechanism of reaching the lending's equilibrium, which allows it to reach the target APY values. And there are two types of lending protocols. So there are over-collateralized protocols like Camino or MarginFi, and under-collateralized protocols like Drift or DeFi Tuna. Over-collateralized protocols allow you to borrow less than your collateral, which means that they don't allow high leverage, which makes them safer, but at the same time, there is a lower incentive to borrow, which leads to a lower APY, which is most often less than staking. And so under-collateralized protocols like DeFi Tuna, they allow you to borrow more than your collateral, which enables access to high max leverage, which makes it more exposed to price movements, but at the same time, it creates a greater incentive to borrow, and usually there is a much higher APY on under-collateralized protocols compared to over-collateralized. And so then we have liquidity farming. And liquidity farming essentially gives you the option to provide your tokens and deposit them into liquidity pools and earn fees that happen from the swaps that happen on the pool. And so liquidity farming, compared to staking or lending, gives you an option of getting almost infinite APY depending on your position. But at the same time, at the current state of liquidity farming, it's very, very complicated for beginners. But even if you are an experienced user, you still may have some things that you don't understand, which may lead to a loss. And so to demonstrate this, I'm going to transition back to my laptop and continue with the live demonstration. But first, I would like to ask, how many of you guys are farming on Orca, Radio, Meteora? Can you just raise your hands? Okay, all right. So, a few days ago, I have opened a position on Orca. So let's open this. So I have opened a position on Orca, and now I will show you my position. So yeah, it's here. So can you guys tell me, by looking at this position, am I actually in profit? Am I in a loss? Or like, how much have I earned? Can somebody guess? Well, I honestly have no idea. When I look at this, there is no way to know without knowing exactly how much tokens I have provided. There's just no track. So, and this is a big problem with pretty much all the current platforms for liquidity farming. Let me just quickly transition this to another screen. So, yep. Yeah. And now, so now, all those platforms, they provide the option of liquidity farming. But as you have seen before, it's very, very hard to track how much is, like, how big is your profit or loss. And so now I will show you my position that I have opened at the same time on DeFi Tuna. So if we go to our website, you can transition to our version 2 build. And over here, you can see that I have exactly the same position, but DeFi Tuna is showing that I am around $3 up, which is about 2%. So yay, free coffee, right? However, if you go back to Orca and we try, for example, to create a new position. So if I have this range over here, does somebody have any idea, for example, how much I will earn or how much I will lose at those bounds of my position? And again, I have no idea. There is just no way of knowing this by looking at the chart. So if we go back to DeFi Tuna, if I just refresh the page and I set the same bounds for my position, and for example, I set that I want to provide 1 Sol. So you can see here that on our P&L chart, I can see exactly that on the upper range, I will be up for about 1 USDC, and on the lower range, I will be about 3.3 USDC down. And so with this knowledge, you can effectively control how your positions are farming yield and also check how well your strategy will perform just by looking at the chart. Now, let's see what happens if I try to increase the slider over here. So you can see that now, as I have set about 1 day, this chart is showing that if I will be farming at this current rate of yield on the current pool, in 1 day, I'll be up about 2.6 USDC. And at the same time, if I will be able to farm some more, I will actually manage to cover all the impermanent loss that may happen in the range bounds of my position. All right, so next, let's see that, all right, I have this 1 day and 5 hours or maybe a bit more to cover all the impermanent loss, but this is actually quite a lot of time for such a volatile token like Solana to stay in this tight range of plus minus 3%. So what can we do about it? Well, let's try to increase the leverage. So if we increase the leverage, you can see that now by farming at the same pace for the same time, I will be up not about 3, but 16.6 USDC. And so also you can see that my daily yield will be about 7.7%, when without leverage, it will only be about 1.54%. And another thing about leverage is that, for example, if you are farming on all the classic liquidity farming platforms, if price goes down, you always lose money. However, with leverage, you can also make your position long, or you can make your position short. And so using this, you not only will be profiting from yield farming, but also from market price movements, which gives you like the best of both worlds. So next problem is that, for example, how often has it happened to you that you open a position, then you go to sleep, and when you wake up, you see that your position is out of range? Well, for me, it has happened quite a few times. And with DeFi Tuna, you have the option to set limit orders, which you can use, for example, to automatically close your position and to prevent your position to getting out of range. And at the same time, you can use arbitrary price points to use it as a stop loss or take profits so that your position will close exactly at the price you want it to. And then we also have a problem of managing your yield. Because right now, even if you've farmed, let's say 100 or 1,000 USDC, whatever, your yield will remain unused unless you manually compound it or collect it and do something with it. And with DeFi Tuna, we have also added a auto-compounding feature. And if you just toggle this button over here, your yield will be automatically compounded, which will pretty much increase your earnings and allow you to manage your own things and not spend too many attention on your position. So, even though DeFi Tuna is a very young project, you can see that we have gone a long way of making liquidity farming much, much easier and way more powerful than it is on the current platforms. And the ability of using borrowed funds with liquidity farming results in a much greater numbers for supply APY compared to staking or lending on some over-collateralized protocols. And as you can see over here, so the current supply APY for Solana is about 9.3% on DeFi Tuna, which is higher than staking and much, much higher than APY on some other platforms. At the same time, when the price of Solana was at its peak in January, we have seen some insane figures for supply APY for Sol, reaching up to 30% and holding in a range of about 25 to 30% for several weeks. And this is something that is not possible to achieve with the classical platforms. And so, if you're staking or holding your tokens in other platforms or doing some other forms of liquidity or yield farming, I greatly encourage you to go to DeFi Tuna, learn how to use liquidity farming. Doesn't matter if it's with or without leverage, but if you find it too risky or too complicated, you can also just deposit your tokens in our lending and just earn from a much higher APY, which is actually one of the top on the entire network right now. So thank you so much. But on the final note, I would also like to mention that we are actively looking for new developers. So if you are an experienced engineer and you are looking to work at one of the most ambitious projects on Solana right now, and you also want to work with a team of great professionals, then feel free to go to our Twitter, which is @DeFiTuna, and apply your CV there, and we will be more than happy to interview you. So now, if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. All right, seems like we don't have any questions. So yeah, thank you once again, and I hope DeFi Tuna will earn you way more profit. Right, thank you.